You know, we have this idea that success is supposed to be a straight line, just one win after another. But what if that's completely wrong? What if real, lasting greatness isn't born from perfection, but from how we handle it when everything completely falls apart?
And that quote, it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. It's not about trying to avoid failure, it's about the climb back up. Because that reaction, that decision to get back on your feet, that's what truly defines a legacy.
So, to really get this, we're going to dive into the story of a man who faced professional ruin on a scale that's hard to even imagine. A quiet but brilliant Soviet aircraft designer named Pavel Sukhoi, whose journey was just littered with political landmines and crushing, soul-destroying defeats.
I mean, look at this. It's the classic recipe for success. Sukhoi was a total prodigy. He gets mentored by the legendary Andrei Tupolev, and pretty soon he's earned his very own design bureau. By 1941, he's already designed the Su-6, an aircraft that, by all accounts, was actually better than the famous one that ended up getting mass-produced. The guy was a bona fide rising star.
But here it is, the first huge blow to his career. Even though he won the super prestigious Stalin Prize for his work, his better airplane gets shelved. Why? Well, because politics favored someone else. What a brutal lesson, right? In that system, being a genius didn't matter if you didn't have the right connections.
And oh, it got so much worse. The jet age is dawning. Sukhoi is pushing the envelope with new tech, and what does he get for it? Outright hostility. The man himself, Joseph Stalin, personally attacks his Su-9 jet with this completely baseless insult. And you have to understand, coming from Stalin, a man with absolute power over life and death, this wasn't just some bad review. This was a professional death sentence.
And then, the final nail in the coffin. In 1949, Stalin, basically fed up with what he saw as Sukhoi's failures, signs a piece of paper. And that paper didn't just cancel a project, it completely, utterly abolished the entire Sukhoi Design Bureau. Just like that, with the stroke of a pen, his entire life's work was just gone.
The collapse was absolute. I mean, can you imagine his bureau gone? His hand-picked team scattered to the winds. Sukhoi himself gets demoted and is forced to go work as a deputy for the very guy who mentored him, Tupolev. He was a nobody, a footnote. His career was, for all intents and purposes, over.
But then, history does what it does best. It turns on a single moment nobody sees coming. In 1953, Stalin died. And in the new political climate that followed, the man who was completely crushed by the system was about to get a second chance from it. This is where the greatest comeback story in aviation begins.
Yeah, Sukhoi was given another shot. He was actually allowed to re-establish his design bureau, literally rebuilding it from scratch. And he did not waste a second. He grabbed that opportunity and got to work, ready to build his revenge, not with angry words, but with fighter jets that would make the entire planet sit up and take notice.
Now, the challenge he was facing was just immense. The U.S. had just rolled out the F-15 Eagle, an absolute monster, an apex predator of the skies. The Kremlin was in a full-blown panic, so they went to Sukhoi's new bureau and gave them a staggering mission. Don't just build something that can fight the eagle, build something that can hunt it.
And to do that, to hunt an eagle, Sukhoi and his team latched onto this radical concept, super maneuverability. Now, this wasn't just about being nimble. This was about literally defying the known laws of flight. You know, maybe all those years in the wilderness, being written off, gave him the freedom to think not just outside the box, but in a way that seemed almost impossible.
The result was his masterpiece, the Su-27 Flanker, an aircraft that could perform the legendary Pugachev's Cobra. Imagine this. The jet is flying along, and then it rears up on its tail, almost standing still in the air at a 120-degree angle, before just dropping its nose and continuing on. It was this jaw-dropping, mind-bending display of control, a move that could, in theory, make an incoming missile completely miss.
Sadly, Pavel Sukhoi didn't live long enough to see his masterpiece take to the skies. But his design, it was so perfect, so far ahead of its time, that he became the DNA for a whole dynasty of world-class fighters. All those painful lessons he learned about failure and politics taught him how to build something so resilient it would outlast any politician or passing trend. His vision is still flying today.
And here's the thing. Sukhoi's incredible story, it's not a one-off. It's actually a pattern you see over and over again. The greatest breakthroughs we've ever had often come from people and teams who were told they failed and they just refused to quit.
Just look at SpaceX. Back in 2006, after pouring years of work into it, they launched their very first rocket, the Falcon 1. And it exploded just seconds after liftoff. A massive, fiery, spectacular failure. All their dreams and pretty much all their money turned into scrap metal over the Pacific Ocean.
So what do? They rebuild. And in 2007, they try again. This time it gets higher, flies for longer, and then starts tumbling out of control before, you guessed it, another explosion. That's 2 launches, 2 failures. The critics were having a field day.
So they rebuilt again. By 2008, they had just enough cash for maybe 1 or 2 more attempts. They launched for a 3rd time. And, for a 3rd straight time, it ends in failure. At this point, any sane person would have packed it in and gone home.
But they weren't sane people. They were relentless. Just 2 months later, on their 4th try, Falcon 1 made it to orbit, and the world of spaceflight changed forever. You see, for them, each explosion wasn't the end. It was just a very expensive, very dramatic data point that told them exactly what they needed to fix for the next one.
Or think about this number, 1,000. Before he finally created a working light bulb, Thomas Edison ran more than 1,000 failed experiments. 1,000 times he tried, and 1,000 times it didn't work.
And he had the exact same mindset as SpaceX. It's all about how you frame it, right? Edison didn't see failure. He saw progress. He was just systematically crossing off all the ways that didn't work to find the one way that did. He knew that resilience is what turns failure into discovery.
So you see the pattern? Sukhoi rose from the ashes of a ruined career. SpaceX rose from a pile of flaming wreckage. Edison rose from 1,000 dead ends. And that brings this whole lesson right back to you.
Whatever it is you're facing, whatever failure is screaming at you to just quit, the very first step is always the same. Stand up.
Learn from it. Use that failure like it's data. Figure out what went wrong, adapt your plan, and then you rebuild. You start again, only this time you're smarter.
Because at the end of the day, perseverance isn't some magical trait. It's a choice. It's a muscle you build. The world doesn't reward perfect records. It rewards the relentless spirit that chooses to get back up every single time. So the only question that really matters is, what will you build from your setbacks?